It always takes 30 seconds or so to verify that it's up and running. But it is. Happy Monday, everybody. It's Monday, right? I lose track sometimes. Get busy with life, but we only do this on Mondays, so I guess it's Happy Monday. None of us are wearing green, and that's okay because St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. But it's just a reminder, if you're into that sort of thing, like pay attention. We got a big holiday coming up tomorrow. So wear your green and eat green eggs and ham and do all that kind of stuff. So thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live on Facebook, that's the only place you would be watching us. So unless you somehow have hacked my computer or one of these gentlemen's computer, you're watching live on Facebook, do me a favor real quick. I'm going to remind you again later as well. Reach up and click the like button, click the share button to share this live stream on your news feed. I get asked all the time by people what they can do to support the organization or what they can do to support like my personal business or somebody else's personal business. I say, hey, what you can do is you can share their content online, and that's no different than this. You have got somewhere between a couple hundred friends and maybe a couple thousand friends on your Facebook feed. And I guarantee you that somebody on your feed has a family member or themselves are struggling with substance use disorder. And you're going to reach somebody with some good news of hope tonight if you share this on your feed. So reach up, hit the share button so that people can see that. So welcome to Parents Helping Parents Live. Parents Helping Parents is an Oklahoma City-based nonprofit organization with the mission of sharing resources, experience, and hope to parents who might need that or who have a son or a daughter any age that's struggling with substance use disorder. So we primarily do that by hosting several different meetings across the state in Wichita and Norman, Oklahoma City, and Edmond and Tulsa. And then we have our live streams. Actually, most of our meetings are still meeting online via Zoom right now because of the pandemic, but hopefully we're coming out of that now that vaccines are rolling out and things seem like they're turning in the right direction. So hopefully soon they'll be meeting back in person. But right now we'd love for you to join us in one of those Zoom support groups or just continue to watch us here live. So for all the information about that, you can check out our website, parentshelpingparents.info. For all of that information, the website's been recently redesigned. We also have a list of reading materials and other resources that parents might be interested in to check that out. So just for the record, Parents Helping Parents has no professional expertise or experience. We're just a peer-led organization that's offering our shared experiences and resources and some of the things that we've uncovered along the way. We were talking about that earlier, guys, and hear my dog in the background. So no professional expertise from an organization. So no outreach that we do should ever be considered a substitute for professional counseling, legal advice, medical advice. All of those things are great. And if it's appropriate for your needs, we want to help you find a resource to get those needs met, but we don't do that. So luckily tonight, we do have some professional experts in the room who can offer some advice and answer some questions for us. And it's really a pleasure to have those guys. So Marcus, Geoff, whoever would like to go first, let's just start by having you guys kind of introduce yourselves, maybe tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll just go from there.
Eric, can I ask you real quick? I'm trying to find the feed to share it. Yeah. Where do I find that on Facebook?
So that's great. It's at Parents Helping Parents Inc. Parents Helping Parents Inc.
Because I'm looking for like everything in helping.
So it should be right on the main page.
There we go. Cool. All right. I didn't know I couldn't find it. So Marcus, you can go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share this. I just needed a minute. I figured that was worth doing.
It should be right on the main page.
Okay.
All right. Geoff, if you could hit the mute button on yours. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Marcus Abernathy. I am the founder and executive director of Sangha Sober Living here in Tulsa. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, just so that you know that I'm here sharing some experience. About 20 years ago, when I was in college, I got a legitimate prescription of Vicodin, and I didn't have any any real education around how addictive the narcotic painkillers were. And over the next few years, recreational use turned into uh, full-fledged addiction. And ultimately, over the next few years, I graduated to heroin and uh, went to treatment several times from the age of about 28 till my mid 30s. Um, and then about 4 years ago was my last time that I checked into treatment at a place in Arizona called Crossroads, and I've kind of been sober ever since. And I'm breezing over a lot here on purpose because I think we'll get into some of that stuff later. But one of the most important pieces of information that I would like you to know is that my family, specifically my parents, played a huge role in pushing me to get the help that I needed. And I wouldn't have been able to have even had the courage to do it without them. Um, I know that there's a lot of hesitation and there can be some confusion about what even to do. And I think we'll touch on that in a little bit as well. But just know that even for a guy like me who likes to think of himself as very, very independent, my family plays a huge role in my recovery today, and they played a huge role in my even getting into recovery. Um, since I've been sober, I've moved back to my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I started a nonprofit called Sangha, and we operate a sober living program here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's all about finding and joining your community, because I think we identify ourselves, especially us addicts who like to really isolate when we're sick. I think we find our identities based on the communities that we join. And I'm not just talking about our recovery community, but really any community, right? Like our family is a community, and that's a huge place where we get our sense of identity. Our Alcoholics or Narcotics Anonymous meetings that we go to, we learn who we are through the stories that we share and the stories that we hear. And then as we grow into our recovery, we get other friend groups and we find other hobbies, and each one of those little variables from those communities add a little bit to what our identities are today. But none of that is possible without making that first step in making the choice to get sober. And that, for those of you who have a child or a husband or maybe multiple family members who are kind of flirting with the idea of getting sober, that is the most courageous step that they will probably ever make, is that. So I think it's imperative that we have groups like this, Parents Helping Parents, literally, that's the name of your organization, to support one another, to help our loved ones find that courage that they need that might very well save their lives. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. I know that Geoff is as well. This is something that we're very passionate about. And I look forward to seeing where this conversation goes and how I might be able to give some direction and pointers for anybody who might have some questions or comments. And I'll stop there for now and just turn it over to Geoff and let him introduce himself.
Great. Marcus, thanks for joining us, man. Really looking forward to visiting with you guys tonight.
For sure.
Cool. Okay. Hey guys, I am Geoff Patterson. I am the Director of Public Relations at Sangha Sober Living. Marcus touched on the family dynamic, and a million things went through my head when he did, because I wouldn't be here without my family too. And my family has had to do everything from, basically drag me unconscious to treatment, to completely cutting me out of their lives for years. It's been all of it for me. And so I know a lot of parents are sitting there going, I don't really know what to do. I don't know what's enabling. I don't know what boundaries are. I don't know what to hold. And those are all things that um, take a lot of time to figure out. And those are things that I have almost daily conversations with families about, because that's the stuff that I am passionate about. So, I'll give a little bit of my story. I went to Catholic private schools. I drank in high school, but not a lot. I was kind of that golden boy in college, like president of this, president of that. I was in a fraternity. I was an absolute drunk on the weekends, but I had a 3.7 GPA. And I was president of philanthropy organizations and head rush chairman and on just a lot of stuff, and what I'll say is one thing that I went to was I built my resume into this just glowing, there's no way this guy could be acting like this. Look at all the stuff that he's doing, and so I was that kid. I've never had a problem with authority. I've never really rebelled directly against authority or dislike cops or anything like that, but I was very sneaky. I was the sneaky addict and alcoholic. And I went out to California after college. I was making $200,000 a year as a 24, 25-year-old, and I discovered cocaine. And my life got real bad real quick. Within a year, I was waking up in hospitals. I was drinking so much on the cocaine that when it wore off, I would seizure out or bad things would happen when I would sober up. And I crawled back to my family in Oklahoma and got sober for a few years. And much like Marcus, I had injuries. I had 2 neck surgeries. I got strung out on pain meds. I lost my 3.5 years of sobriety, ended up at Valley Hope and Cushing, and just never really recovered from any of that stuff. I worked for my father. I got a girl pregnant during all that. I'm Catholic. Getting a girl pregnant terrified me, and I just didn't handle any of it very well. I went to Valley Hope, got sober for a little bit, got sneaky again, ended up relapsing. Part of my story, and I'm just honest about it, is I went to Catholic private schools. I was in a fraternity in college, as I said, and I'm running around with meth gangs eventually, and I just don't have those street skills. And I ended up getting abducted and tied up and tortured and almost raped on a floor on a plastic tarp in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it didn't even surprise me. Honestly, I just wanted to die. And my family stepped in, and they've been trying to get me to go to Arizona to go to treatment. And I finally said, well, I don't really want to know the next level of wherever that was going to go. So I went out to Arizona and came to at a treatment center there. And I was in Arizona for 8.5 years, rebuilding my life. I had a bad relapse after 4.5 years sober, got another girl pregnant. My family walked away from me, and I ended up with my son. So he may bust in here at any minute, by the way. So if he does, he's just trying to come see his dad. But I have actually had custody and care of him since he was 3 months old. And that's been just a life-changing experience for me. And he's 3.5 years old now. He has all his toes, all his fingers. He's alive. Like, nobody's more shocked than I am that I've been able to keep this little human alive after battling addiction, almost dying several times, being tied up on a floor, and now I've turned into a pretty good dad. I met Marcus in Arizona 6 years ago through some connection, and I called Marcus, and we ended up having coffee. And 6 years later, we're working together in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because my family finally, through my son, saw the kind of guy I could be and invited me to move back home and rejoin the family after 8.5 years. So Marcus ended up being my bridge back here with the job, and I didn't know the guy that I called 6 years ago because somebody gave me a number and said, this guy's from Tulsa, you need to call him. We ended up coming back together. So my faith is very strong. I do believe that God did all of those things for me. I do believe God put me on this phone call tonight, and I'm really glad to be here. There's been a series of miracles in my life, and I owe it to myself and the world really for all the damage I've done to be on calls like this and try to help as many people as I can. So thanks. That's what I got.
Man, Geoff, thanks for sharing a little bit of your story with us. For people who are watching, there's two ways that you can ask questions of us tonight. You can do that in the Facebook chat. I'm going to caution you and remind you that anything you put on Facebook is on the internet and people are going to see that forever. But if you're comfortable asking a question on Facebook, have at it. If not, in the description of this video on Facebook is a confidential text line that I am monitoring right now on the screen. So if you would rather text private questions for us to ask Marcus and Geoff, that's great. You can do that as well. I made a list of several different questions, even hearing brief parts of you guys' story that I think would be great for us to talk about. This is the first time we've ever been able really to sit down with anybody that probably has the experience that you guys do dealing with opiate addiction that actually stems from legitimate medical needs of those chemicals. And I know in my practice, I get asked by parents all the time, and I get asked by addicts and alcoholics all the time, like, how do we deal with prescription medications that are opiate based? And like, what maybe are some of the basics that parents need to know about that if they have a high school student who experiences an injury, or a college student, or even another family member that's been prescribed medications? I think the fear is that, oh no, they gave me prescription painkillers, I can't take them because I'm going to become addicted. And like, what are just some things from you guys' experience that, maybe families need to know about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a wonderful and relevant question, and there's a few points that I would like to touch on. The first thing, which is very important, is that not everybody who takes a Vicodin is going to turn into an addict, right? So, my brother, for example, he broke his leg. He took like one Vicodin, and then he had no pain and never took any again. And so it's not a guarantee that that's going to happen, but they are dangerous. And the truth is that we don't educate our kids or our parents enough about these things. I mean, I think the only drug education that I had growing up was DARE. And the only thing I learned was that if I smoked marijuana, I might turn into Snoop Dogg. I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that I learned. And I smoked a lot of weed, and I'm not a good rapper. So, what does that tell you? I think the earlier that the parents can have the conversation with the kids, especially if there is an injury, is, hey, if they prescribe you this certain type of drug for your safety and for our comfort, we're going to monitor them. And we're not just going to monitor what we give you, we're going to monitor how you feel, just so that we can talk to the doctor to make sure that we're not getting into a dangerous situation, right? Another thing that they need to know is that opioid painkillers are just pharmaceutical grade heroin. That is all they are. Come from the same plant. The painkillers are just cleaner because they're made in a lab. So that's the direct, like, if somebody gets addicted to those kinds of pills, that's where it's heading if it's not stopped sooner than later. But conversation, open communication, and education before there's a problem, not after somebody thinks there might be a problem. Preventative measures, I think, are the most important things to keep in mind. And then I'm sure Geoff has something else beyond what I just said, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Marcus brought a couple things up, and I agree with everything that he said. I won the DARE award, like they gave the DARE, like the person that volunteered or interacted. I won that in 7th grade. So that's one thing I find funny, but not funny. And then I've actually had 12 major surgeries in my life. And so my story is relatively interesting because I had, let's see, foot surgery, 3 knee surgeries, ankle surgery before I, got out of control with my drinking and the cocaine. and I never had a problem with pain meds. I took them just fine before the age of 24. I never had an issue putting them down. I just didn't. My brain, I hadn't changed yet. So I think I'm muddying the waters by telling my story a little bit, but I have been able to successfully take pain meds for several surgeries under the age of 24, and nothing, no bad. I hadn't gone there yet. Um, and then I've had, let's see, 2 neck surgeries, a heart ablation, and 3 shoulder surgeries after that age of 25. And I have, those have been the causes of my relapses, has been the surgeries. So my brain had changed. I never, what do they say? It's alcohol, yes, but they say once a cucumber becomes a pickle, it's always a pickle. And for me, it's once an addict becomes an addict, you can't go back. I can't successfully drink anymore, and I can't successfully take painkillers anymore. So that probably doesn't give a lot of clarity, but it just shows you how normal I could. It just changed for me. What can you do? First of all, I'll say if you have painkillers in the house, that's fine, but hide them or lock them up or count them. I know that I hear lots of stories from people on the phone about, lots of overdose stories of 14 and 15, 16-year-olds hearing about it. They check their parents' medicine cabinet. They don't know how much to take. They take a whole bottle of Vicodin or Percocet or whatever, or they're sneaking them, right? And they get started that way. So it's not just having a surgery or a medical condition. Like if you have those in the house, you need to be aware of where they're at. Also, if you're selling your house, like people take pills. I mean, there's just a lot. Like if you have narcotic medications in your house, that's fine. You might need them, but lock them up or hide them. Count your pills. Make sure the pills that you have are the actual pills that they're supposed to be. And if they're switched out with something else, then you really need to have a conversation with your kid already, because that happens too, if that makes sense. So I don't have a lot more to add than Marcus did in terms of monitoring them, but make sure that your pills are locked up and your kids don't have access to the ones that you already have.
Yeah, I know Marcus has another thing to add, but I just want to echo that. I think parents oftentimes forget, if I've got narcotic medication for anybody in the house, that needs to be stored in a safe place. Both because overdoses happen accidentally, because you're right, kids have a headache and don't know what something is and don't read bottles, and mom says, well, just get one of the white pills. And but also people that sneak stuff. And I think you made a good point. I hear stories all the time of electricians and the Cox guy and plumbers who are coming into people's homes and, oh, can I use your bathroom real quick? Go in there. Everybody keeps those in the restroom, really easy to find. So I always recommend to parents, like, hey, don't keep your narcotic pain medication in the same medicine cabinet that you keep your Advil in. That's silly. And it needs to be kept as secure as possible. And it's real easy. Like you can buy a very small safe at Walmart for $75, for that kind of stuff. So Marcus, what else did you have, brother?
Yeah. So the other thing that I would say is that, I mean, obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not going to give medical advice, but the medical technology that we have today, there are very strong anti-inflammatory drugs that are just as efficient with getting rid of physical pain as some of the opioid painkillers that we have today. So consult your doctor about what those alternative medicines might be. I think in the last 5 or 10 years, just because the epidemic with drugs has gotten so bad, they've really gotten good about knowing what those alternative drugs are.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things, Marcus, that I heard you say in your story is that your parents played a pretty significant role in helping you move to sobriety and move into recovery. And then I'm gonna kind of ask 2 questions, because I'm gonna pigtail on some stuff that Geoff said as well. And Geoff, you said that your parents did everything from sever relationship for a certain period of time to dragging you kicking, screaming to treatment and everything in between. So kind of my two questions kind of for both you guys related to parents would be, Marcus, what was it that your parents did in terms of encouragement that actually worked for you? And then for both of you, like, how do parents know where on that boundary spectrum they need to be that's going to work for their young person, right? Do they have to do it several relationships, or can they do other things? Like, because that's a huge spectrum. I tell people, like, how do parents know where on that spectrum they need to be in order to create family success?
Sure. So I appreciate the question. So the first thing that my parents did that was monumental was they knew I had a problem. They had mentioned that they thought I had a problem, and then finally, when I had gotten to a point where they said, "Okay, it's bad enough that we need to do something," uh, they offered me an opportunity to go get help, no questions asked, no judgment. Hey, here's an option. If you would like to take it, we will make it happen. And that was it, right? That they didn't talk down to me. They weren't condescending. They were very loving about it. And when I accepted, they even got on the airplane with me and flew, rented a car, and drove me to the place from Oklahoma to Arizona, gave me a hug, told me they loved me. And I could not have felt more taken care of in that 24 hours, and I wouldn't have gone otherwise. Right now, I wish I could tell you that I got sober then, but that's not true. I didn't. However, that was the first seed that was planted, and if that seed was not planted in the way that it was, I wouldn't have ultimately made it to where I am. My trajectory would have gone that way instead of ultimately up, right? And it was the love and the care. I know they were frustrated with me. I know they were mad at me, and I know that they were probably biting their lips and smiling at me, but they did a great job, and I give them all the kudos in the world, because I was not an easy person to be around in those days.
Yeah. Derek, I don't think there's a direct answer for that, because every family dynamic is completely different. I have seen the situation like Marcus's happen, and it works and it sticks, and they never have to do like what my parents had to do. Ultimately, what worked for me, because of just some of the toxic ties I had internally to some family things, I got well when I thought I was never going to be in my family's life or talk to them again, because I was finally on my own. I was finally like, there is no bailout. I don't get to hear mom's voice anymore. I don't get to fish with my father anymore. Yep. Oh man, it was tough. I just fished with my dad a couple days ago. Like it's cool when it comes back like that. But I finally got well when I just thought they were gone. I didn't have anybody left to help me or save me. And but there's no padded answer for that. There's no direct answer for that. I know that loving families are going to continually try, until the only option that they have left is their kid is going to die. They are that close to dying because of their physique, the way they look, the way they're doing, heroin, whatever it might be. So they step back and they cut them off to take care of themselves finally, and they finally say, I simply cannot do this anymore because of what it's doing to me. My marriage is suffering. My relationship with my kids is like, I cannot do this anymore. So self-preservation means I have to step back and say I'm done. And finally accept whatever's going to happen with their kid. And it doesn't always have to get to that point. You know, but for me, it did. It had to get to the point where my family finally just couldn't take it anymore, you know? And I don't think it was a boundary thing for them as much as it was, they could not see me, you know, after getting sober for years at a time, a few times, and tanking it out again. They couldn't. My dad had a stroke this last time, you know, he almost didn't come back from that happening. And I didn't blame them, you know, and kids are going to blame, and they're going to put it on you, and they're going to say you're evil and how could you, but like, you've got to take care of yourself as a parent. As drug addicts, we're very good at making you think it's your fault. I did not do that to my parents. I was not one of those type of addicts, but I do know that is a normal situation, and the toxicity level of those is just really difficult. But unfortunately, most parents will have to get to a point where they cannot do it anymore, and they're stepping away for self-preservation, you know, because they don't have any other options. So
Yeah.
there's no canned answer for that, man.
Yeah, Geoff, you used a phrase a little bit ago. I want you guys to unpack it for me as I rip my headphones out of my ears. You used a phrase that they had to do what they had to do to take care of themselves. Unpack that for our parents in terms of like, what do you mean by that? What do you like help parents understand when we say like, hey, you got to take care of yourself? Like, what does that mean in the context of a parent who's got a son or daughter that's got a substance use disorder?
I mean, it's not, most of the time the families are just as sick, if not sicker. And you're there. I mean, Derek and Marcus, you guys know this, that they're just as sick as the addict. And they get to a point where they can't function either, much like a drug addict cannot function without drugs or alcohol. I've seen moms and dads and brothers and sisters lose jobs because of the amount of energy and effort they are putting into an addicted loved one. I've seen many times, unfortunately, divorces happen because of the kid. Any number of things that like an addict could lose, a family can lose too, because of how consumed they are with taking care of this loved one. And I tell the parents, you know, whenever I get called now, first thing I ask anybody that calls me where I'm helping them with their kid, first thing I ask them is, how are you doing? Like, how are you? I have been, you know, my son's mother is still out doing what she was doing. And I had to take care of myself because it was consuming me to deal with her. And I had to finally start telling myself it is okay for me to go work out. It is okay for me to smile or just do some things, you know, and because she would convince me, so I got a little taste of what parents go through with kids. I got a big taste of it actually, but and she would make me feel like I was doing something wrong anytime I tried to take care of myself, because that meant the focus was not on her anymore. And I know kids do that to their parents. I know they do. And there are parents watching this right now that have a kid that is completely holding them hostage, no matter what they do for themselves. You know, then they may go out to a nice dinner and the kid, well, you didn't answer my call and I texted you during dinner, or you're spending money that you could use on me. And somebody is being held hostage that's watching this right now. And that's not okay. And I want to tell you, it's not okay for the addicted loved one to do that to you. So if that is the case, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it, because I know that situation very, very well. And I know Marcus does too. So I'm going to let him comment on that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I was sure that you were going to bring that up. Before we started this, I just wrote down a few, hold on, my Roomba just turned on out of nowhere. 1 second.
That's great. Roomba for the win.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that my son hasn't busted in here. I mean, I really am. So
I think my new house is haunted, because that happens random times. And I hope it's a benevolent spirit and it doesn't mean me any ill harm.
It's trying to clean your house, man. That's a pretty nice spirit if that's what's happening. Like I want
clean, and I take that personally.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wrote down before this meeting, just as a few prompts for myself, and I underlined it, was take care of yourself, as in the parents, and stick to your boundaries, whatever they are. You know, I have this beautiful story about how my parents loved me all the way to treatment, but that was treatment 1 out of 6, right? And so over the next 5 or 6 years, the relationship I kind of made go like that until ultimately that's what they had to learn how to do. They had to learn how to be okay, even if I was not okay. And that included putting distance in the relationship and telling me that they weren't ready for me to move home, even though, you know, I told them I was sober, and I don't think I was at the time I told them that. You know, and my dad, he even went through Celebrate Recovery and did the 12 steps just to try to understand what I was going through. And my mom, she created this support group of mothers. I think she's even been to some of these meetings. She might even be on here tonight. Hi, Mom, if you are. But I think that's a really important point, is that if all you're doing is taking care of someone who is addicted and you're not taking care of yourself, eventually, you know, you floor your car for long enough, is going to run out of gas if you don't fill it up with gas. And you've got to give yourself some care. Go get a pedicure, go see a therapist, take that vacation, go on date night with your husband or wife, you know, turn your phone on do not disturb. And if you tell somebody that you need space, keep that space. If you tell somebody no more money, don't give them any more money, because at some point, even with love, and I hate that I have to say this, but it's like with everything, there is a point of diminishing returns, even with love. But the thing with love is that when you reach that point, once you get past that point, you are literally loving somebody to their death.
Mhm.
And I cannot, and I have seen it too many times. So hold your boundaries and take care of yourself. That's very, very important.
Yeah. So you mentioned it too, Marcus, which kind of teed up one of the questions, because I noticed that it was a part of Geoff's story as well. You guys both have a history of some chronic relapse issues, and I know that is a particular difficulty for parents who have, you know, adult children who are continuing to get older into their 20s and 30s, and it's relapse after relapse. What kind of specific encouragement or hope would you have for families who are dealing with that?
You know, I was going to say, because before this job, I did treatment placement. So I would have families call me, and sometimes it would take, you know, 7 months to get their loved one into treatment. Um, there's no magic button. Just because somebody goes to treatment, like I've been to treatment 4 times, so 2 less than Marcus, but I have spent 23 months of my life in treatment because I went to long-term treatment. So that's a lot. I'm 41 and I've spent 23 months of my life in some kind of like treatment. I always tell the families, you know, I actually don't remember your specific question because this was just so prevalent in my mind. They may go to treatment but lose the expectations because most people don't get it on their first run. I see so many families go, oh my gosh, they're finally going to treatment. I'm so happy. And you should absolutely be happy about that, because at least for 30 days or 60 days or whatever, you know, your son or your daughter's safe and they're not like putting themselves in life. So like I've heard parents even say, I'd pay $40,000 just to get peace of mind for 30 days, you know, and that tells you exactly what we just talked about. Is sometimes people send their loved ones to treatment just to get a break for themselves too. And that's a very common theme. But I've had, you know, 2, 3, 4 years sobriety several times. And I've built people, and then I get out and I do really well and I build my life up and I become top salesman or top manager or top whatever, as addicts are bright people. We do good stuff. But I always have to tell families, you've got to let go of this pressure you put on them, and you've got to let go. It's a one day at a time thing for you too, because you are absolutely going to crush yourself if you think they're going to stay sober magically after the first run. There is no magic button for any of this stuff. It doesn't matter if you pay $100,000 for treatment or free treatment or 200,000. Like, there's just no magic button for it. And families, they need to take that time and just do work on themselves so they're okay when and it hopefully never does happen. But if something does happen, they have done some work on themselves so they're prepared for that. So I have that conversation often is, I know you're happy that they're going, but you need to be okay with whatever happens from this point, because there's just they may walk out the door as soon as they get there. You just don't know. So, I deal with that a lot.
Yeah, I think I would give the same answer that Geoff did. I think that every time that I experienced a relapse, I learned something to not take with me into the next period of sobriety. So the attempts that were not immediately successful were not attempts in vain. It was just a long learning process, because essentially I was relearning how to live and relearning who I was, while at the same time, my family system was learning who it was without sick Marcus, or while sick Marcus was in and then out of the picture so many times. And that is confusing to a family system. I think that Geoff was right on. He hit the nail right on the head with lose the expectations. Some people get it on the first try. Some people don't, right? Another really important thing to remember is that it's really easy to make it personal. But addiction is not a moral failing. I mean, the medical community has recognized it as a chronic affliction since, I think, the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. And we've known that. And then we've just built upon the foundation of what kind of disorder it actually is. But it is not a moral failing. Some of the best people I've ever met are people who got addicted to drugs. Yeah. So it doesn't have to mean so-and-so is bad. It just means that they're still learning if they have a relapse. Yeah. One of the best signs of if somebody's really serious about it is how resilient are they after a relapse? Are they gonna try it again? Because as long as they're willing to try it again, there's gonna be hope.
Yeah, I always like to tell parents that there's a really big difference between continued chronic use and chronic relapse with extended periods of sobriety. And I think they need to be treated very separately, because, Marcus, to your point, yeah, the medical community is hands down all on the same page. Addiction's a disease. And it's the only disease that when there's a flare up, we act differently or want to pull resources from somebody instead of pour resources on somebody. And that response after a relapse is often the biggest indicator of where somebody is in a program of recovery, or not. So as a follow-up question, we had a parent ask through our line, or I think this one might have came in on Facebook, but and I know, obviously it's going to be different in everybody's situation, but what are some just kind of basic things that parents should have on their to-do list for a family member who's coming out of treatment, or son or daughter that's coming out of treatment?
All right, can I say one thing real quick? And I'm going to think about your question, but I wanted to say, because I say this a lot to parents too, most parents sit around and try to figure out why their kid is an addict, right? Marcus said moral failing, and it popped in my head. And I told a lady a week ago, I go, please stop trying to figure out why your son keeps relapsing, because I know all you're trying to do is find out where you failed as a parent, and you didn't. It's just, that's where you're left. And so I think it's important to say that, because every time I say that to a parent, I hear them take a deep breath and say, oh my goodness. So I'm going to think about your question, but I wanted to say that to the parents out there, because you're going to drive yourself mad trying to figure out why, and you didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's not a moral failing. And I needed to say that. So
yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Geoff. Derek, that again, stellar question. I think the most important, I'm going to bring it back to boundaries. Have boundaries set in place before they leave treatment, and have a plan in place for what if a relapse happens, and then try to come up with a few different scenarios and plans that both the family member and the parents can agree upon. And if there's a therapist in the treatment center that can help facilitate that conversation, or a case manager, or some kind of peer recovery support specialist that has experience doing this kind of transition aftercare plan, involve that person, and everybody sign it. Because once it has that signature, then everybody's in it together, and I think that is one of the best things that you can do before somebody leaves treatment. And then the other thing is, in my opinion, don't let them come back home. They need to go to a sober living house, and then they need to find their own place, and they need to get a job, and they need to work and save money. And even if it takes a year of living in a halfway house or whatever, it's time for them to learn how to make it on their own. And when it comes to money, right? Your money is your money. Sometimes you might need to give someone a leg up, but usually, especially like this is the way we do it with guys at Sangha, no one else is going to give you a leg up. So, try to figure it out. But if it really comes to like a dire circumstance, if it's supporting a backswing toward addiction, it's enabling. If it's supporting progress and their recovery, then it's positive support. But the more that somebody can learn how to become independent and self-sufficient and build that confidence in themselves, that's going to be a very, very positive thing for their recovery, even if it's a struggle for them in the moment.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop right there, because I know Geoff has some things to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add with what Marcus said. I've the amount of conversations that I've had over the last 3.5 years with families. I mean, one of the other most common things they say is, when they get out of treatment, is it okay if they stay with me for a week or two, or a few days, or whatever? And I can't answer. I say, this is my thoughts on it, is no. The problem is, they come and stay with you for a week, and all of a sudden it turns into 6 months, or they stay with you for a week, and unfortunately there's too many triggers at home, or whatever it might be. All your stuff gets stolen. I don't know. There's a million things that can happen. Encourage your child to have a doorstep to doorstep plan that isn't your doorstep, because there's just too many things that can happen. Money wise, I mean, like Marcus said, there's no definite on any of that. I mean, I've seen everything from people buying Ford Raptor when they get out of treatment to never giving them $1 again. And then that's just on you to decide. There was nothing better for me than having to work for $7.92 an hour as a cashier at Walgreens for a year out of treatment. And I had been a top real estate agent in Tulsa. I had been runner-up rookie of the year for a Fortune 200 company. And all I had left was well, actually, I didn't even have a bicycle left. I had to save up to buy the $100 bicycle. So I had transportation at age 33. So, that was one of the best character building things that's ever happened to me. And I was grateful to have that job. So, I don't know. I would say they need to figure it out themselves, honestly. Because by the point you send them to treatment, chances are you've already tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell our guys at Sangha all the time. I tell them that the best thing that happens to you feels the worst when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because memory, it's similar to like even memories, right? It's like when I look back at some of the best memories that I have, they were actually like not great experiences, like that hiking trip that, we had to go an extra 5 miles out of the way because we missed our campsite. Like in the moment it's misery, but looking back, I'm like, oh man, damn, that was a good trip, guys. You remember that? And I think it's the same way. And man, Geoff, you're about the umpteenth person that I've said or heard something say similar to what you said about just the humbling experience of kind of having to start over and what that does for the soul as you're coming out of treatment in terms of like setting you back straight and helping you get your head in a proper humble place to go on to do bigger and better things.
And I remember I ended up working at a bank because I got a $4 an hour raise, and I was wearing a tie, riding a bicycle a mile to work with a tie on. And I remember I finally bought like an $800 newcomer car. I've owned 9 new cars in my life, and I was so happy to have that $800, piece of crap car, because on the way home that day and that night I was getting the car, it was raining on me with a tie on, and a wood chipper literally blew wood chips all over me, and I was soaking wet. So I got home and I was covered in wood chips, and I was like, okay, God doesn't want me to do this again.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like an exclamation point on the, okay, all right, I got it, because that had never happened before. But I look back on those times, Derek, you're right. And I mean, like, it was so simple. Things were just easy and simple. And they were some of the better times of my life. You're absolutely correct. I look back on it and just smile. I do.
Yeah. Man, I was going to try to get to this last question. Maybe we'll wrap up with this question. So, to wrap up, you guys mentioned at Sangha just a sense of community that you like to instill to all the guys there, and how important community is as a system in our change. Speak briefly to why parents, or if parents also need community as a part of this process. And then also just maybe give like, hey, if a struggling family is listening to this and I want them to hear, like, make sure they hear this one thing, like what would that be from each of you?
Sure. The community piece for me is the most important piece, and Geoff is laughing because he's heard this verbatim 1,000 times since he's been working for me. But the word Sangha actually that I chose for our organization is Sanskrit for community. That's how much I believe in it. I heard it in a yoga class and I thought it made me sound smart. But that for addiction, isolation is the number one thing that we all go to because it's fueled by such shame, right? So if you invert that, what's the inverse? What's the opposite of that? It's unity and togetherness. And I don't think that's just for addiction. I think it's for shame in general, and sadness and grief and anger. And parents who are dealing with a child who is addicted, they're experiencing all of those emotions probably at the same time, and it's probably really confusing. And the only people who are going to help you understand and digest what's happening inside your brain and your emotions and inside your body is other people who are going through some situation that has some semblance to what you're going through. So community, people who help you figure out where you are in life, who you are, and how to get through it. because you're not going to do it on your own. And the other thing, the other part of your question, what would I say to somebody who is struggling right now? There's about 1,000 things I would say, but first of all, to the parents, it's not your fault. You didn't cause it. And go get that pedicure or go on that vacation or just do whatever you have to do to take care of yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, I was laughing because Sangha literally means community, and that's, everybody that comes around our place goes, man, there's a brotherhood here. Like, this place has such a good vibe, and I use it all the time with the guys. I'm like, we are a community here. Like, we help each other. Like, when a new guy shows up, I don't want him to have to fight for space in the fridge. That does not promote community. Make sure he has his own space. Make sure, like that's one thing that's big. And Marcus talked about it. The opposite of addiction is connection. Like, it just is. And I never am stronger in my recovery than when I am connected with other people. My family is a big part of that. But I have to have a separate connection and community outside of my family. So encourage your kid to get plugged in with other things. If the only connection that your child has is your family, then there might be some family dynamics there that need to change a little bit. That's a whole nother deal. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Just if you had one thing that you want to make sure parents hear tonight.
Just what Marcus said, and I say this to addicts in recovery: self-care is king. You have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can do anything with your kids. Take care of yourself. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. It is okay to take care of yourself, and I convinced myself for years, and then I had people in my life convince me that when I did something to take care of myself, even diet or even exercise or whatever, that I was doing something wrong. And that is false. There is making time for self-care and doing it in a way. Like, I get up an hour early every day just to get prayer and meditation in and get my day started. I don't do that while I have to take care of my kids. I don't make that. I structure my day around doing what I need to do to be okay. So there's a balance with it all, but never let anybody tell you that a boundary that's important to you or something for self-care is wrong or bad, because it's okay. It is okay.
Yeah. Excellent, man. I really appreciate you guys tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules and your evenings away from, your friends and your family and normal routine, and giving our parents a good word. I really appreciate you guys being here. Before we close the live stream, why don't one of you just give us information about Sangha in terms of if a family's interested in connecting with you guys as a resource? How do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach you guys, and maybe your social media stuff?
Marcus, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that the easiest way to get in contact with us is go to our website, and that'll have email and phone number for whatever it is that you're looking for. Our website is sangatulsa.org, and Sangha is spelled Sangha. And we always respond as soon as we get a message or a phone call. It might not be immediate, but it'll be as soon as we see it. And we try not to let any message or call or text or anything go unanswered. So,
it'll be within 24 hours for sure.
Sangha Tulsa.org.
Yes.
Okay, I'm putting that for people who are watching. I'm putting that in the comments thread, so you guys can find the link there. So everybody on Facebook is telling you guys thank you and how much they appreciate your words tonight. So I appreciate it. You guys let me know if I can ever do anything for you, and enjoy your St. Patty's Day.
Hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Thanks, guys.